Yeah, I think so. I think the people who work here, like actors like me and from my friends and everybody, we know that Boston, in specifically Boston, but New England in general, but mostly Boston, it's a huge hotbed of activity, and it's not just for Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, for the local guys shooting movies here, but bless them, they do. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Most of my work is here. I mean, I've got to do an audition for a film now that if I get, I hope I get it. It'll take place in like Jerusalem next year. That'll be as far flung as I've gone so far. But I love finding work around here. I mean, you occasionally have to go to New York or something like that, but there is so much work here for people. If that's what you want to do, if you want to act, there's a ton of work here. So yeah, I think it's more of a hotbed than people realize. People outside the industry might not understand it, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff here, and a lot of big companies come here to film. Obviously, there's a lot of big budget Hollywood films that are shot here. Hi, my name is Paul Kandarian, and this is my golden hour.
Well, welcome back to another episode of GDP, the Director's Cut. Today we have Paul Kandarian joining us. Thank you so much, Paul.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
And Paul, can you first start off by telling me how you met Conor and how you got involved with Conor?
I was kind of hoping Conor would know because it was a couple of months ago, and I get most of my work through Backstage. So it may have been through Backstage or I can't remember if I found him or he found me. It was just, it worked out, whatever it was. So it may have been on Backstage, or he may have just contacted me to say, do you want to do this? I think that's what happened. And I'm 90% sure that's what happened.
And can you explain to me what Backstage is exactly?
Oh, well, okay. It's backstage.com. And Backstage, it was a print magazine for like 40, 50 years. It's like Variety. It's an entertainment magazine geared towards the entertainment industry. And then backstage.com, they have listings for acting jobs, like literally all over the world. So you sign up for that, you pay $150 a year or whatever. And then you can connect with people, casting directors, production companies, whatever. You can filter it so you only get notifications fitting your demographic. So I'll get 30, 40, 50 notices a day about possible auditions. And then I'll hit them, 3 or 4 or 5 a day. And, a hand sprinkle of those will work out. So it's a big gamble, but it works because it's a great website. It's a great resource for actors, and you can really hone in on the kind of jobs that you want to get, paying jobs or local or whatever. And it's really, really worked out well for me. I really, really enjoy it. So that's what Backstage is. It's a resource for actors and producers and filmmakers.
Have you found any really odd jobs, any odd roles on Backstage?
Oh, not necessarily odd, but just a different. I'm trying to think if there's any odd ones. Last year, or the year before, I found one that I ended up going out to Ohio and West Virginia to be a time traveler. It's like this old guy and his wife who are scientists, and we figured out how to travel in time. So we go back and forth and things like that. I mean, I love time travel concepts anyway, so that was great. I really enjoyed doing that. But as far as just odd, weird, bizarre, no, not really. It's just different, just interesting, So and I love different roles. I mean, some actors like playing a certain character all the time. I'll play killers, I'll play avuncular characters, grandfathers, nice guys, bad guys. I love mafia types. I just love playing mob types, and I've done a handful of those. I love that. So it's all different, all interesting. It runs the gamut, and I love it.
That's a great segue. What role did you play in Conor's film?
I played this really smarmy, horrible, condescending motivational speaker who wrote a book. I think the book was You Could Be Me, but it's a long shot, though, or something like this. Really smart-ass kind of guy. And it was great because it was fun. It's fun going to extremes because I'm totally not that guy. So he had me playing this motivational speaker who it's a tail end of a big speech in front of a bunch of car salesmen somewhere. We did it at BU. I'm sure they'll put a green screen, not a green screen, well, however, they'll put a crowd there if there's nobody there. And it was fun because he'd written this great dialogue where I'm just coming off as this, like I said, smarmy, wise ass, condescending guy. And then I go off stage and I just treat him like dirt. I don't know if you can say real words, but treat him like crap, just like crap all over this kid. And it was fun. And it was a lot of, we improvised a lot too, because Connor's a very creative kid. And he wrote the dialogue, and we did it that way. And he said, okay, no, let's come up with something else. And he came up with stuff, and I came up with stuff. And I love that. I love that interaction. Just working with somebody who's as creative as he is, just to come up with crazy stuff. And we did. I can't remember it now. We just came up with a bunch of good stuff. So that was fun. And it was a great character to play because, again, it's totally against who I am. I'm a reasonably nice human being. And this guy's just a complete jerk. And it's fun. It's fun to just bust out of the normal shell that whatever we are, our normal persona, just to do something completely different. And that was great. I really enjoyed that character.
Do you do a lot of improv work, or was this the first time you've done some sort of improv in your scenes?
No, I've done it. I haven't been film acting that long. I got into acting in 2007 in this little town where I live, and then I did theater for a bunch of years because I thought theater was the purest form of acting. And then I started doing film, realized it's hard. I mean, film is difficult as theater is. It's just different, two different skill sets. But in theater, you don't really improvise, obviously. But in film, I've been able to improvise here and there. And I did a story once a couple of years ago for Rhode Island Monthly Magazine on comedy in Rhode Island. So I went to improv shows. I went to improv classes just to write about it. I ended up doing stand-up to write about. And that was fun. I mean, that was a great learning experience. But in film, you don't usually get to do that much improv. You usually kind of got to stick to the script. Unless they, like Conor did, just say, we'll do it this way. And then we'll just have fun and do it another way. And that's where the good stuff comes from sometimes. It really does. So to answer your question, I haven't done a lot of improv, no. But when I have, it's just been very rewarding.
We were actually talking about this recently. It's interesting to see how many comedians especially come from the New England area. Do you have any idea of why that is? Like you talked about Rhode Island, but
yeah,
it's also as a ton, obviously. And, like New York and them too.
It's funny because the comedians I talked to, they said, we talked about comedian personalities, and they said, we're some of the most miserable sons of bitches you'll ever meet. They're just miserable, bitter people. And maybe here in the Northeast, because it's, we have like 11 and a half months of winter. It's just a miserable place to be maybe we were just pissed off all the time. I don't know. But that could be it. And it's just in the Boston area, New England, especially in Boston area, it's very liberal. It's very creative, obviously, all the colleges and universities there. And so we tend to be a more creative lot, I think, than maybe, the cornfields of Iowa or something like that. Nothing against the cornfields of Iowa, but I think maybe it's just a very creative place here, like on the West Coast. The two coasts are very creative entities, and I think that may have something to do with it. And we like I said, we're kind of like miserable, and we can be a little ornery and grouchy, and it's easy to try to get the funny out of that. It's kind of so I think maybe that's it. We're a creative area to begin with, and we're pissed off. It's a perfect combination for comedy.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that you wrote for the Rhode Island Journal. You did a lot of writing early on in career. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, it was the Taunton. I lived in Taunton. The Taunton Daily Gazette was a paper there, and I'd always wanted to write when I was a kid. I dabbled in writing crazy stories. When you're a kid, you do stuff like that. And I never thought I could do it for real. And then in 82, 83, I said, screw it, I'll just try it in a newspaper. And I ended up staying there for 15, 16 years. And I loved it. I just loved the news writing as a form of writing. I had never written before. I'd never gotten training. I haven't gotten training in anything I've done. I just kind of winged it. But I just loved telling a story in the news format, profiles especially. I love profiles because I love talking to people and figuring out what they're about. And it was just great. And it tapped something in me, the creative part of me that I had never really tapped before. As a kid, you're very creative and crazy. But this is something I could do in a structured format and get paid for. So I loved it. And I did it for 15 years. And then I freelanced for I'm still freelancing on and off for the Boston Globe, for Rhode Island Monthly, Providence Business Journal. And then for a period of time, I was a travel writer for like 10 years. I was going all over the place doing travel writing. So I just love writing because, again, it's a creative outlet and it's satisfying. And I got into acting later in life, like I said, in 2007. And it's writing, but it's somebody else's writing. I mean, I'm a writer, so I can write my own stuff. but I like acting because I'm using somebody else's words. And I'm one of those actors who likes to stick to the script as much as I can and memorize plays or movies, because as a writer, I respect somebody else's words. So I don't want to mess them up, I totally forgot what the original question. I've gone off on a tangent.
No, that was perfect.
Okay.
That I wanted to ask you, going along that idea, you were obviously a writer for many years, then you transitioned into acting.
Yeah.
How you said that a creative bug kind of bit you to get you into writing. Do you
Yeah.
think that creativity followed you and transformed in any way, or was it pretty much the same, or was it an entirely new beast?
That's a good point. Maybe it's the same beast, but a different iteration, a different species or something, I guess, maybe a different branch of that beast. Because I think when you're creative, you're just creative. You're always creating. I love to cook. We had folks here for the weekend. I cooked all weekend. I just love to cook. I go on hiking and I just started foraging for mushrooms. And that's kind of creative because what you can do with them. And so, yeah, it's the bug bit when I got into writing, and I thought, I knew I had to do this because it triggered a talent in me, I guess, that was there, but it kind of was dormant. And the same thing with acting. Acting by far is the thing I wanted to do more in my life than anything else. But I never had the courage to do it. And just thought if I screw this up, it'll destroy me. If you want something bad enough, you don't go after it because you're afraid you won't get it and then you'll be crushed. And I think that's what it was with acting. And then as you get older, you just don't give a shit, give a damn. But if you can swear or not, you just don't care about what people feel, or you're just willing to try things and take risks. And that's what happened with acting. And then when it bit hard. As soon as I got out on stage in this little town I live in, we did the rehearsal and everything, and I got the lead in a play called Later Life, and how appropriate was that? As soon as I got on stage and said my first line, I said, "Damn, why haven't I done this before?" And so I've just gone insane doing as many shows as I possibly could for 4 years, 5 years, and then kind of went into film. And now all I do is film commercials, industrials, things like that, college films. And it's the same beast. It's the same bug that bites you.
Yeah.
And it just ignites the fire of creativity in you. And that creativity can take many, many different avenues. Like I said, in cooking, in writing, photography. I do photography too. I love photography.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's just no end to the venues, to the avenues that creativity can take, and I can't live long enough to explore them all. So that's why I'm doing it now.
And do you think there was one inciting incident that caused you to get up on the stage, or was there just a culmination of, oh, I really have to do this at this point?
Yeah, it was. The first time I did it, because like I said, there's a small theater here, and we would go. My girlfriend and I would go to shows because we knew people. It's a small town. And I was watching it and I said, I know I can do this. I know I can do this. So maybe that was it. Maybe that was a trigger because I saw other people doing it. And I hadn't been to that much theater in my life. But every time I had, it's like, I know I can do this. And it was the same with film. I'd watch film and study film without knowing I was studying it. I would just absorb everything. And I reflected on this later that I would see how the props they were using, the music, the lighting, sound, everything. It just kind of percolated it in me all those years. And when it came time to act, it was just there. It was like a decades of learning, and finally came out. I had a place to use it. So yeah, not one, I guess maybe not just one thing, but yeah, just that desire and the urge not to quell the dream anymore, because we all do that. I think, unfortunately, you have a dream, you have that one thing you really, really want to do, and you don't do it. And I think sooner or later you just have to overcome that and try it. And if you fail, you fail. You just try something else. But if you don't, and it grabs hold of you, it's like nothing. I've never done anything more satisfying in my life than acting. And so, yeah, that.
Mhm. And so you write and you act right now. You've had experience in both throughout the years.
Yeah.
Do you think writing has taught you anything about acting and vice versa? Have you learned anything about the different crafts from one another?
Yeah, I think so. Because when you write. You, as a writer, telling other people's stories, you write with their voice in your head, and so you say it out loud, but you don't say it out loud. You know how the reader is going to read it, and you write it so they'll understand it, and it'll have a flow to it. It'll have a cadence and a pace. It'll be pleasurable to them. It'll make them want to read more. And it's the same with acting. When you realize that these words are written just for that, because they knew these words were going to be spoken out loud. And so I don't know, it's just an interactive respect for each other, the craft that each other brings to the art of storytelling. It's all about storytelling. Whenever I write a story about people, it's their story. Whenever you get up on stage in front of a camera, you're telling a story. So I have a tremendous respect for that. And one does feed off the other. As a writer, it's definitely informed me as an actor. And as an actor, it is informed me as a writer as well. So it's just a marvelous, circuitous connection between writing and acting. And I love it. Just absolutely love it.
Sure. And I want to get a little more Conor's movie specific for a second.
Yeah.
Question Conor likes us to ask everyone is, what was your first impression of Conor when you first met him?
Oh, he was a ball of fire, that kid. I mean, I just thought he was funny and he was focused on, very bright. I mean, he's a bright kid. You just talk to him for 2 minutes, you know he's bright. Because his synaptic gaps are narrowed. He's making and firing and all these, making connections between this and that. He can disconnect a lot of thoughts in a coherent way, like what I'm doing now. But that was my first impression, that this kid's going to be a lot of fun to work with, because he's sarcastic. He likes dark humor. So it's everything that I like. He embodies everything I like. So it was easy to get along with him.
And what was your experiences on set for those days like?
It was fun. It was a very small crew because of COVID, so everybody kind of kept their own distance. But it was great. I can't remember the people I worked with, but they were great bunch of kids. They're all kids to me anyway. But it was great. It was fun, and we're on the BC campus. I think we shot. Yeah, it was BC. We shot that, and it's a beautiful campus, and it was great just being there. It was a beautiful day. I've never really had a bad experience on set. It's always been fun, because you just got to look for where the fun is. You got to let the fun infuse you in what you do. And so that was fun. It was fun from start to finish, because again, you play a character that was totally unlike me. It was such a professional job. They did such a good job. They had the big screen with my big face on and the book cover. It was a make-believe book cover, and they had printed those up. So it was well done for a very small crew. They really did a great job. I haven't seen the final product, so I don't know how great the job was. But at the time, it looked great. I mean, they did know what they were doing. So they handled it well.
And you mentioned that you work with a lot of younger people. Do you have any advice, even though you, of course, took a very different life path than most people? Do you have any advice for people who are interested in working in creative industries such as film?
Yeah, the only voice that matters is yours. And I tell all young people that. They say, I want to do this, I want to do that. My parents aren't that crazy, but luckily a lot of them, their parents are. They say, yeah, go ahead and do it. But for the ones that, the parents say, you got to be safe, you got to do this, screw it. The only voice that matters is yours. Always follow your heart. And no matter what you want to do, pursue it. If that's the fire that burns in you the brightest, just follow it, go after it. And if it doesn't work out, something else will present itself in a related field, I think. So if you have an urge to do something that badly, you're going to find a way to do it in some form, So yeah, that's the best advice I can give people. Just go for it. Go for it. Don't stop. Don't listen to anybody else but you. Yours is the only voice that matters. So that's the advice I would give.
And Paul, what voice is coming to you right now? What is it telling you to do next?
Just keep doing it. I got the story I always tell that I used to go driving with my father and the family, and he was a great adventurer too. He would drive, we'd just be meandering through the forest somewhere on the road, and I never knew what was around the next corner. And then when we got around the next corner, I was like, oh, that's what that is. And then I look forward to the next corner and the next corner. And that's kind of what I do now. I just look forward to the next corner every day, every part of every day. Never know what that turn will take you. And it usually takes you someplace cool, someplace satisfying, someplace creative, someplace that you were meant to be in that moment, this split second in a very short life, in the grand scheme of things. That's where you were meant to be. So I just exploring the crap out of life, and I just love it. And that's all that matters. All that matters is the day to day in the moment. It's the mindfulness thing, I guess, because that's all we have. So yeah, it's always the next corner for me. I cannot wait to get around the next corner and then put that in the review and go to the next one. Life is uncertain. I love the certainty of the uncertainty of life is what I love. You just never know.
So you fare well in uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's all, I mean, if you just embrace that concept, it's all uncertain. I mean, even if you go to the same job every day, do the same thing every day, there's a certain amount of uncertainty in everything. Life is uncertain. And you talk about ad libbing. Every minute of our life, what we're doing now is ad libbing. You wake up, you start ad libbing. When you talk to your wife, your husband, the kids, the cop, the doctor, your coworker, your lawyer, whatever, it's all an ad lib conversation. There's nothing scripted about living. So that's what the most of the practice is. I think that's in the art of of acting and ad libbing is we do it every waking moment of every single day of our lives. So that,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's crazy. I never thought of it like
Well,
that.
no, it's absolutely. I mean, like Shakespeare, I think it was Shakespeare said, right? All the world's a stage, and then women and men and women merely players. Bingo. That's it. It is. All the world is a stage. We're constantly performing. We talk different to our wives, and we talk to our bosses, then we talk to the cop on the stops us in the car or whatever. It's all ad lib. It's every minute of the day is an ad libbed experience. So how can we not be good at it?
So just to rewind it back a little bit, the film obviously takes place in Boston. And it's entirely shot in Boston, in the surrounding Boston area.
Yeah.
Boston itself isn't really known as a film city. Do you think that's like a mischaracterization of Boston? Does Boston have like a booming film industry that a lot of people aren't aware of?
Yeah, I think so. I think the people who work here, like actors like me and for my friends and everybody, we know that Boston, in specifically Boston, but New England in general, but mostly Boston, it's a huge hotbed of activity. And it's not just for Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, for the local guys shooting movies here, but bless them, they do. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Most of my work is here. I mean, I've got to do an audition for a film now that I hope I get it. It'll take place in Jerusalem next year. That'll be as far flung as I've gone so far. But I love finding work around here. I mean, you occasionally have to go to New York or something like that, but there is so much work here for people. If that's what you want to do, if you want to act, there's a ton of work here. So yeah, I think it's more of a hotbed than people realize. People outside the industry might not understand it, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. And a lot of big companies come here to film. Obviously, there's a lot of big budget Hollywood films that are shot here.
Yeah, I mean, you see every day. I saw the other day that Netflix is shooting a couple movies up here.
Yeah. So it is. Unfortunately, you don't get the big stuff here, the big parts for actors. It's mostly background and extra work, which I hate to do because I don't like standing around not doing anything. So I like to be part of the whole thing. But there is a lot of, in the short version, there's a ton of work here for people, and I'm working constantly. And I even, pandemic slowed it way down, but now it's starting to pick up again. And it may kind of go the other way now since the pandemic is rearing its ugly head again. But in general, Boston is a great place to work, and it's not that far from New York if you have to get there. So there's that.
That's actually a good segue. Do you think, how do you think filmmakers and film workers today have responded to the pandemic? Obviously, there's still work going on in the pandemic. How do you think that's handled?
Most of the places I've done stuff for, they're very aware of it. They have COVID. They may have COVID compliance officers or whatever they call them on set to make sure everybody's doing it right. Everybody's got a mask on. And they try to create the scene so the actors aren't really, really close. And then I've been tested a bunch of times, not every time, but many times on a film. So you got to get tested first. So they are taking precautions because they don't want it come back to bite them. If something happens and they're going to get in trouble. So it makes sense to take precautions. But again, now with everything spiking, who knows what's going to happen? But a lot of places I've done films online. I've done Zoom films with people and Zoom projects, and it sucks because it's not really as the same. But there's a guy in New York who's done a bunch of these, and I worked with him on one a few months ago. He's a really great young director. His name's Jeremiah Kipp, and he did a quarantine series. People should look it up. It's Kipp is his last name, Jeremiah. Quarantine series, and he had actors in all these different films shoot their parts in their houses or outside or whatever. They were alone, and he pieced them all together to make these incredible narratives, just amazing little films. Yeah. So people again, it's that creativity. It's not like, the pandemic has squashed a lot of stuff, but creativity hasn't stopped. People are just more creative than ever. And I saw a meme yesterday. I don't know how true it is, but they said, the plague, the Black Plague back in the 15th century, it shut Shakespeare's theater down. And that's when he wrote Hamlet, Antony and Cleopatra. I forget Macbeth. That's when during the period where he had nothing else to do because the theater was closed down, he supposedly churned out these masterpieces. Again, it was on Facebook. So is it true? Who the hell knows? But it's a good story.
Yeah, inspiring. And that's what matters.
Yeah. The point is you just keep creating. ABC, this is a stupid thing, but always be creating. Just do it because there's no reason to stop creating, even in a pandemic. Because it's just you and your mind. Stuff still's happening up there. It's not just do it. Just write stuff or just do goofy videos to put online. But just create something because that's not going to go away. Oh, go ahead.
Sure. Paul, we just have a couple more closing questions for you, and then I'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us.
That's right.
First, I just want to ask, did you have a good time?
Today? Yeah, I had a great time. To talk about myself, actors talking about themselves, it's always a good time. You can't shut us up.
I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, Paul. I've had a great time. Our first closing question is about the movie. Obviously, it's taking place in a zombie apocalypse. So our question for you is, what would your plan be to survive the zombie apocalypse in Boston?
Oh, the pandemic apocalypse? That zombie apocalypse?
Yeah.
It's a boring answer, but just to adapt to it, I guess. I mean, you looking for some like totally flip answer, like kill people and eat them before they get to you? Maybe something like that. Yeah. You know what? Maybe just pick on a big neighbor that you can feast on for a while. Kill them, put them in cold storage in your basement, and just ride out the winter. That's my stupid wise ass answer. But other than that, it's just to adapt and adjust and keep doing as best you can. I mean, I hike, it's every day. I'm going to go for a hike pretty soon. I don't care how cold it gets. Just try to maintain a sense of normalcy, even though there's nothing normal about it. Mm-hmm. So that's my fatherly answer. But the other one about, just eat people before they eat you. Yeah.
And Paul, the last thing we have for you is just our little ending bit to close and open the show. I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. It's just 2 sentences and you'll repeat after me. The first one is, hi, my name is Paul Kandarian, and this is my golden hour. And then the next one is, hi, my name is Paul Kandarian, and that was my golden hour.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Paul Kandarian, and this is my golden hour. Hi, this is Paul Kandarian, and this was my golden hour.
Paul, you're a natural. I know I commended you as our resident actor here. Thank you so much.
Did I say it right? Or did I leave podcast out? No, okay. I always worry about things like that.
I'll stop recording. Yeah.